Everyone, welcome to this lecture. So, the plan for this lecture is as follows. In this lecture, we will see how we can modify the perfectly secure VSS scheme that we had discussed in the last lecture based on bivariate polynomials and make it to handle even a potential corrupt dealer. So, just to recap, this was the simpler verifiable secret sharing scheme where we assumed for simplicity that the dealer is honest, and the sharing phase protocol is the following. Dealer first picks sum is sharing polynomial of degree t whose constant term will be the secret, and then it embeds this sum is sharing polynomial in a random bivariate t degree polynomial, and ith party is provided the ith row polynomial and ith column polynomial on that bivariate polynomial. Each party outputs the constant term of the received column polynomial as its share. And in the reconstruction protocol, every party makes public its share. The corrupt parties may provide incorrect shares. So, we apply the Reed-Solomon error correction, and since we are working in the setting t less than n over 3 and the shares S I lie on a t degree polynomial f of x, the parties can apply the Reed-Solomon error correction and reconstruct back the sum is sharing polynomial f of x, and they can then output the constant term of that polynomial as the secret. We have also discussed in the last lecture what goes wrong in this protocol if the dealer behaves maliciously. So, remember that up to t parties are allowed to be corrupt, and this possibly includes the dealer as well. So, if the dealer behaves maliciously, then what it can do is that it may distribute inconsistent polynomials to the honest parties, namely the f and the g polynomials given to the honest parties may be now arbitrary polynomials and may not lie on a t degree bivariate polynomial, and as a result of this what can happen is that the shares of the honest parties may not lie on a t degree polynomial. This will have further consequences in the reconstruction phase protocol, because Reed-Solomon error correction may not work properly, and hence any t degree polynomial may get reconstructed, and hence any secret may get reconstructed. So, if the dealer behaves maliciously in this protocol, then the strong commitment property is violated. So, the strong commitment is not achieved, and now our goal will be to take this sharing phase protocol and incorporate additional steps here, additional mechanisms here to ensure that even a potentially corrupt dealer is following the protocol instructions properly and distributing consistent polynomials to the honest parties. Okay. So, this will require now interaction among the parties to verify whether their f and g polynomials lie on a single bivariate polynomial, and that is why this scheme or this protocol is called as a verifiable secret sharing, because the parties can verify. One simple way to verify whether the polynomials of all the honest parties are derived from a single bivariate polynomial will be to ask each party to make public the received f and g polynomials, and then we can do some consistency checks and find out whether the polynomials are derived from a single bivariate polynomial or not, but that will simply breach the privacy. So, we require here a mechanism which allows the parties to verify whether their f and g polynomials are derived from a single bivariate polynomial, and that too ensuring the privacy of their polynomials if the dealer would have been honest, right. So, that is a challenging part here. So, it is like two conflicting goals need to be achieved. We want a verification mechanism during the sharing phase protocol to verify whether the f and g polynomials of all the honest parties are derived from a single t degree bivariate polynomial, and at the same time during this verification mechanism we would like that if the dealer is honest, then nothing about the row and column polynomials of the honest parties should be revealed during the verification mechanism, because we would like to maintain the privacy property for the verifiable secret sharing if the dealer would have been honest. So, how do we check whether a potentially corrupt dealer has distributed consistent row and column polynomials to the honest parties? And to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to invoke the pairwise consistency lemma. Okay. So, we will have some steps in the protocol which will depend or which will utilize the pairwise consistency lemma. So, let us quickly go through the pairwise consistency lemma statement. So, the lemma states that if you have t plus 1 or more number of row and column polynomials which are pairwise consistent, then all those row and column polynomials lie on a single t degree bivariate polynomial. And it is precisely this property which the parties are going to utilize while doing the verification. Okay. So, what the parties are going to now do is the following: once dealer distributes the row and column polynomials to their respective parties, each pair of parties will compare the supposedly common points on their respective polynomials and publicly announce the result. And then the goal will be to ensure that all the honest parties, their polynomials are pairwise consistent. Okay. If they are not pairwise consistent, then there will be publicly raised disputes, and then dealer has to come into picture, and then dealer has to resolve those disputes, and after end of all those things it will be ensured that the polynomials of all honest parties, their row and column polynomials are pairwise consistent, and that will automatically ensure that even if the dealer is corrupt, it has distributed row and column polynomials derived from a single bivariate polynomials to all the honest parties. I would like to stress here that here we would like to check the pairwise consistency between the row and column polynomials of only the honest parties. We do not care what exactly the corrupt parties get, because they can output anything. Okay. So, the strong commitment property is only with respect to the shares of the honest parties. We do not care what shares the corrupt parties output, because they may not follow the protocol instructions. In fact, they can output any share whatever they want at the end of the sharing phase protocol. So, that is the main idea here, but now the obvious challenges are that how do we ensure that the parties verify the pairwise consistency of their respective polynomials, and that too guaranteeing the privacy of the polynomials if the dealer is honest. Okay. So, here is how the protocol proceeds. The round 1 of the protocol, the sharing phase protocol to be more specific, will be the following. On having the secret S, dealer will pick a random t degree bivariate polynomial whose constant term is the secret S. For doing that, it will first pick a random Shamir sharing polynomial whose constant term is the secret S, and then it will pick t additional t degree univariate polynomials in X, and then it will try to interpolate this t plus 1 number of X univariate polynomials, which will guarantee that the constant term of the bivariate polynomial is the secret of the dealer. Okay. And if the dealer is honest and if he picks the bivariate polynomial like this, that also ensures that the resultant bivariate polynomial is a random bivariate polynomial whose constant term is the dealer's secret. Then, as done in the previous case where we assumed the dealer is honest, dealer will give the ith row polynomial and ith column polynomial on this bivariate polynomial to the ith party. And now the rest of the protocol steps will require interaction among the parties to verify whether the dealer has distributed consistent row and column polynomials to the honest parties, because if the dealer is not honest, then it may not follow the protocol instructions, it may distribute arbitrary polynomials to the honest parties. So, once the dealer distributes the row and column polynomials to the respective parties, the round 2 starts. Just to recall, we assume here that the protocol executes as a sequence of communication rounds, where in each round parties perform some computation, decides what message to send to its neighbor, what message to broadcast, it sends those messages, it broadcasts those messages, and it receives the messages which have been sent by its neighbor, and then it goes to the next round. And also for simplicity, we will assume that if an expected message is not coming from a designated sender party, then the receiver party in that round substitutes that expected message by some default message and proceed to the next round or next steps. Okay. We will not write separate steps that okay, if this message which is expected to arrive and if does not arrive, what should we do, and so on. So, in round 2, each pair of parties will now perform the pairwise consistency of their received polynomials by exchanging the supposedly common points on their received polynomials. So, every pair of parties Pi and Pj, where Pi and Pj may be the same parties or they may be distinct parties, do the following. So, the ith party has its row and column polynomial and the jth party has its row and column polynomial. The ith party Pi will send the jth point on its row and column polynomial to the party Pj, and in the same round in parallel the jth party will be sending the ith point on its row and column polynomial to party Pi. Now, ideally if dealer is honest, then we expect that the jth point on ith row polynomial should be same as ith point on the jth column polynomial and vice versa, and that is what each pair of parties Pi and Pj checks during round 3. So, once this supposedly common points are exchanged, every pair of parties during the round 3 publicly announces the result of the pairwise consistency test. So, let us see what party Pi does. So, it checks whether the ith point on the jth column polynomial which it has received from the party Pj matches the jth point on its own column polynomial, and it also checks whether the ith point on the jth party's column polynomial which it has received is same as the jth point on its own row polynomial. If both these tests pass, then it says it makes public an OK message saying that okay, I am fine with j. That means my polynomials are pairwise consistent with jth party's polynomial, and it broadcasts an OK message. So, recall that we assume that we have a system wide broadcast channel available. So, if party Pi is broadcasting an OK message, it will be delivered identically to all the honest parties. How do we realize such a system wide broadcast channel? Well, we can emulate the effect of broadcast by running any reliable broadcast protocol. Whereas, if any of this pairwise consistency check fails for Pi, then it makes public an NOK message indicating that it is not OK with Pj, or that means it is in conflict with Pj, and it will make public the disputed points, namely its own version of the disputed points, which indicates a negative test. Okay. That is a round 3. Similar check Pj will be performing, and accordingly in the same round 3, Pj might be either broadcasting an OK message for Pi, or it might be broadcasting an NOK message for Pi. Okay. It might be possible that even though the dealer is honest, one of these parties Pi and Pj is corrupt and they unnecessarily broadcast an NOK message. But what we can conclude is that if the dealer Pi and Pj are all honest, then Pi will be broadcasting an OK message for Pj and Pj will be broadcasting an OK message for Pi. Now, let us see what happens during the round 4 of the protocol. So, in the round 4 of the protocol, for every party Pi who has broadcasted an NOK message for Pj during round 3, the dealer and the party Pj makes public their version of the disputed points. Okay. So, imagine that during round 3 there is some party Pi who has broadcasted an NOK message against Pj, indicating that Pi has performed the pairwise consistency test and the pairwise consistency test is negative from the viewpoint of Pi. That is why it is saying that I am not fine with Pj's polynomial, my polynomials are mismatching with Pj's polynomial. So, for every such complaint raised against the dealer or against the party Pj, to be more specific, by Pi, dealer makes public its own version of the disputed points. So, what are the disputed points here? The jth point on the ith row polynomial and the jth point on the ith column polynomial. So, dealer has those points because dealer only has distributed those points to party Pi, because it has the full bivariate polynomial. So, dealer now makes public its version of the disputed points. And in the same round, since the dispute is against Pj, Pj makes public its version of the disputed points which Pj would have received from the dealer during round 1. Okay. So, Pj has its own row and column polynomial, a dispute has been raised by Pi during round 3. So, Pj now goes and makes it stand public during the round 4 by making public its own version of the corresponding disputed point. Now, what we can conclude here? If at all there is a dispute between Pi and Pj, then either the dealer is corrupt and it has distributed inconsistent polynomials to Pi Pj, or if the dealer is honest, but still if there is a dispute between a Pi and Pj, then at least one of them is corrupt. Because if the dealer is honest, if Pi is honest and if Pj is also honest, all these 3 parties are honest, then the polynomial, then the row and column polynomials of Pi and Pj will be pairwise consistent and there will be no dispute at the first place, namely Pi will say OK for Pj and Pj will also say OK for Pi. So, if at all there is a dispute between Pi and Pj, then that implies that either the dealer is corrupt or one of the 2 parties Pi or Pj is corrupt. Okay. So, for every such dispute, dealer and the corresponding party against whom the complaint has been raised has to come into picture during round 4 and they have to make public their version of the corresponding disputed points. Now, based on what the party Pj and the dealer makes public during round 4, we identify the set of happy and unhappy parties. Now, who will be the unhappy parties? We will say that party Pi is unhappy if it has raised a complaint against Pj during round 3 and corresponding to that complaint during round 4, dealer has made public some points which does not match Pi's version of the disputed points, right. So, recall that Pi has made public its version of the disputed points during round 3 and dealer has made now public dealer's version of the disputed points during round 4. So, if dealer is not taking Pi's side, what does that mean? If the dealer's version of the points, disputed points, does not match any of the Pi's version of the disputed points, then that will be taken as if dealer is not taking Pi's side and that implies that Pi will be considered as an unhappy party. And in the same way, Pj will be considered an unhappy party if the dealer's version of the disputed points does not match Pj's version of the disputed points which Pj has made public during the round 4. Okay. It might be possible that dealer's version of the disputed points matches Pi's version and Pj's version, in which case none of them are unhappy. That could be possible, but if at all it so happens that the dealer's version of the disputed points does not match either the Pi's versions or the Pj's version, then the corresponding party is considered as an unhappy party. And notice that this set of happy and unhappy parties will be publicly known because the set of happy and unhappy parties is decided based on the NOK messages and what the dealer and the corresponding complainant makes public during round 4, and everything, all the disputed points are made public through broadcast channels. So, everyone will know which party has made which points as the disputed points, what is their respective version, what is the dealer's version, whether they are matching the complainee's version or the complainant's version, and depending upon that the set of unhappy parties will be publicly decided. Now, before we proceed further, as a sanity check at the end of round 4, once the set of unhappy parties is decided, parties check whether there are more than T unhappy parties. So, this UH denotes unhappy parties, and the parties who are not in this set UH will be considered as happy parties. So, if there are more than T unhappy parties, then that automatically implies that the dealer is corrupt, and that is why it is safe to terminate and halt the sharing phase protocol at this point itself and discard the dealer. Because if the dealer is honest, then no honest party will be present in the unhappy set. It will be only the corrupt parties who will be present in the unhappy set, because the polynomials of all honest parties will be consistent, pairwise consistent, and lie on a single bivariate polynomial. So, if at all the number of unhappy parties is more than T, namely the number of maximum corruptions in the system, it automatically implies that the dealer is corrupt, and hence they can discard the dealer and they can take a default Samir sharing of 0 as the sharing on the behalf of the dealer. So, what does this default Samir sharing of 0 means? Every party sets its share as 0, assuming that the sharing polynomial f of x is a T degree polynomial where the constant term is 0 and all other coefficients are also 0. That is a default Shamir sharing of 0. Okay. Now, if the dealer is not discarded during round 4, what does that mean? It means that there are at most T unhappy parties. Okay. So, the protocol is not yet over, because it could be possible that dealer is corrupt and there are some honest parties who are still present in the unhappy set. We have to ensure that they also get their respective row and column polynomials. So, for that we have this 5th round in the protocol, round 5 of the protocol, where for every unhappy party Pi, dealer makes public the supposedly row and column polynomials of that unhappy party. Well, if the dealer is honest, then indeed the row and column polynomials which dealer is making public for those unhappy parties Pi will be the correct polynomials, but it is not necessary that dealer is honest. What dealer may simply do is, for every unhappy party it may simply broadcast an arbitrary row and column polynomial, which is now not consistent with the row and column polynomials of the happy parties, right. That could be possible. So, to enforce that even a potentially corrupt dealer broadcasts the correct row and column polynomials for every unhappy party, the happy parties have to do something. So, the happy parties, namely the parties who are not in the unhappy set, they do the following in parallel during round 5. They make public the supposedly common points on their row and column polynomials, which should lie on the row and column polynomials of every unhappy party, right. So, Pi is an, so what is happening here is that suppose dealer is there and thus this party Pi is an unhappy party. Okay. So, this unhappy party Pi is supposed to now receive its row and column polynomial, because whatever row and column polynomial it would have received from the dealer during round 1 is not consistent with the parties with the remaining parties. So, now what the dealer is doing in the round 5 is we are asking dealer, find dealer, you make now public the row and column polynomials of this party Pi, he is still unhappy. So, dealer is saying okay, its row polynomial should be f of x of alpha I and its column polynomial should be f of alpha I y. But what is the guarantee that these are indeed the correct row and column polynomials? So, what we are asking now here is that every happy party Pj for whom it has been ensured that they are pairwise their polynomials and pairwise consistent lie on a single bivariate polynomial, they make public their supposedly common points on this row and column polynomials, because they also have 2 points which lie which should supposedly lie on the row and column polynomials corresponding to this unhappy party Pi. So, Pj makes public those points. Now, it is not necessary that every Pj who is an happy party who belongs to the happy set broadcast the correct points on Pi's row and column polynomials, they may be corrupt as well. So, what now we are doing here is we are going to do the following. So, we have say an unhappy party Pi, for that dealer is now making public the ith row and column polynomial public, and we have a bunch of happy parties, right. So, remember we are working with the setting t less than n over 3, that means the number of happy parties if the dealer is not discarded is at least 2t plus 1. Okay. Now, what each of these happy parties is doing is that they are making public the supposedly common points on the ith party's row and column polynomials which they have. Okay. And now, we have to check the following. We have to publicly check whether the dealer has resolved the polynomials of unhappy parties consistently. That means, whether the dealer has made public the right polynomials on the behalf of every unhappy party. How do we check that? For that we check that for every unhappy party Pi for whom dealer has made public the row and column polynomial corresponding to that, whether there exist at least 2t plus 1 happy parties who have broadcasted the corresponding points which lies on the polynomials broadcasted by the dealer. If this condition is not satisfied, then again we can show that it implies that the dealer is corrupt, and hence it is safe to discard the dealer and terminate the sharing phase protocol here itself by asking every party to output the share 0 on the behalf of the dealer. However, if this condition is satisfied for every unhappy party Pi, right. So, remember there could be up to t parties in this set of unhappy parties. There could be a party Pk as well, there could be a party Pl as not Pl, there could be a party Pi1, Pi2, Pi3 and so on, there could be up to t such parties. So, the condition that I have mentioned here, it should hold for every unhappy party Pi, namely for every such unhappy party Pi, whatever polynomial dealer is making public, it should be consistent with at least 2t plus 1 points which are made public by the happy parties. If the condition is not satisfied, safely discard the dealer. Now, let us see the output of the sharing phase protocol. So, if the dealer is not discarded, then every party Pi set its share as follows. So, there could be 2 possibilities depending upon whether the party Pi is finally ending up to be a part of the happy set or unhappy set. If it ends up in the unhappy set, then on the behalf of such Pi, dealer would have made public the row and column polynomials during the round 5 of the protocol. So, what Pi does is it takes the column polynomial which dealer has now made public during round 5, it forgets whatever polynomial such Pi has received from the dealer during round 1, and now the constant term of this new column polynomial which has been made public by the dealer during round 5 is taken as the share by party Pi. Okay. So, if there is this party P I 1 corresponding to that, dealer would have made public these two polynomials. So, what party P I does is it takes this particular column polynomial and output the constant term. Similarly, if P I 2 is another unhappy party, then for that dealer would have made public these two polynomials. P I 2 will now take this column polynomial and output the constant term as its share. Whereas, all the happy parties, they output the constant term of the column polynomials which they have received from the dealer during round 1, because those polynomials have been found to be pairwise consistent by the happy parties. Okay. So, if P L is a part of the happy set, it outputs the constant term of the lth column polynomial which it has received from the dealer during round 1, and similarly other parties in the happy set obtain their shares. Okay. So, that ends the description of the sharing phase protocol. In the next lecture, we will do a rigorous analysis of this sharing phase protocol and see whether it satisfies the strong commitment property against a potentially corrupt dealer, and whether it maintains the correctness and privacy property that we have achieved for the VSS simpler VSS scheme assuming an honest dealer. So, these are the references used for today's lecture.